Ready to rack to school and save big? Get to your Nordstrom Rack store today for thousands of deals from just $20.
Because I want to look fresh.
How did I not know Rack has Adidas?
I got a new backpack.
Score everyone's favorite denim, sneakers, boots, and activewear from Nike, Levi's, Steve Madden, Madewell, and Free People. Great brands, great prices. Everyone's got a reason to rack. Shop Nordstrom Rack and make it the best school year ever.
This podcast is sponsored by Talkspace. You know when you're really stressed or not feeling so great about your life or about yourself? Talking to someone who understands can really help. But who is that person? How do you find them? Where do you even start? Talkspace. Talkspace makes it easy to get the support you need. With Talkspace, you can go online, answer a few questions about your preferences, and be matched with a therapist. And because you'll meet your therapist online, you don't have to take time off work or arrange childcare. You'll meet on your schedule, wherever you feel most at ease. If you're depressed, stressed, struggling with a relationship, or if you want some counseling for you and your partner, or just need a little extra one-on-one support, Talkspace is here for you. Plus, Talkspace works with most major insurers, and most insured members have a $0 copay. No insurance? No problem. Now get $80 off of your first month with promo code SPACE80 when you go to Talkspace.com. Match with a licensed therapist today at Talkspace.com. Save $80 with code SPACE80 at Talkspace.com.
Hey there, listeners. Welcome to Shit That Goes On in Our Heads, the podcast where we normalize conversations around mental health.
That's right. I'm Dirty Skittles, and alongside my amazing co-host, Rex, we are here to share stories and tips from our incredible guests.
Each episode, we deep dive into struggles and triumphs of mental health, offering practical advice and heartfelt support.
Because no one should feel alone in their journey. Join us as we break the stigma and build a community of understanding and compassion.
Tune in and let's start talking about the shit that goes on in our heads. 3, 2, 1. Welcome back to another episode of Shit That Goes On in Our Heads. Today, I'm here with my amazing co-host, Dirty Skittles, and we have an awesome guest. Welcome, Melissa. I'm so glad to have you here.
Thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be talking to you today.
I'm excited to get to know about you, like a little bit about you. You're currently, where are you based out of?
I'm currently in San Diego.
Ooh, I love San Diego. We did a drive from San Francisco all the way down to San Diego and stopped at all these wineries. When we got to San Diego, I told my husband at the time, I'm like, I don't think I want to go home. I think we just stay here, right? Like we'll find a place, we'll live here. It'll be fine. Right on the beach with the seals. I think we're at La Jolla or something like that. Yeah, it was really beautiful.
It is. I'm very blessed. I'm very grateful to be able to spend time in San Diego for sure.
How long have you been in Cali?
Well, that's one of those funny things that happened. I was living in the East Coast full time, but I was really not there that much because I was running around, not wanting to face myself in that space. It felt lonely. I had no friends. So I decided to go on a road trip with me and my 2 dogs about a year after I started to really dive deeper into myself and heal trauma and really care about my mental health. And it started like a month and a half of a road trip. And when I got to the West Coast, I was like, wow, this feels like home. And then I said, you know what? I had already planned a trip for the whole summer in Europe. And I said, you know what? When I come back in the fall, I don't want to go back to my house alone. I know what happens there. I feel lonely. I want to drink. I want to be on social media. So I looked for a place in LA for 3 months rental. And funnily enough, I went to my trip in Europe. And then when I came back to my house in South Carolina, I was there for only a week and I was packing for my 3 months in California. And my last night there in my house at 4 a.m., I wake up and I mean, clear as day, like you and I talking right now. I wake up and I'm like having this voice in my head in third person. And it just said, you don't have to be here anymore. And it just kept on looping. And like, it wouldn't stop. And I laid in my bed and I had all these fears coming up. Oh my gosh, like, I don't have to be here anymore, but what do I do? And then it settled into this inner knowing that came from me. And I said, I don't have to be here anymore. So I stood up from my bed. You know, I had my real estate license at the time because I used to invest in real estate. I listed my house on the spot. I walked out with my suitcases. I looked back and I didn't know exactly where I was going to live, but I looked back and I said, I'm not going to see you anymore. And I just walked out and came to the West Coast. And eventually, I found this beautiful spot in San Diego, and I'm very grateful to spend time there.
I already have questions. So if you see me jotting stuff down, I'm already... So question. First thing I thought of was, did the voice sound like anybody?
No, but it was the first of several times that voice started to show up. So, we all have different belief systems about what that might be. In my book, actually, I mentioned in the epilogue towards the end, I say that I believe we get messages from our future. And I say it doesn't matter who you think they come from. You might think they come from God. You might think they come from your higher self, your inner knowing. You might feel that they're a hunch, that they are, just a gut feeling. It doesn't matter, but we all get them. We all have had those moments in our lives where we just have this knowing. And many times, like when we follow it, it might be discomfort at the beginning, but it was the right thing to do.
Yeah. And then the second question I wondered was, I feel like that phrase, you don't have to be here anymore, could mean so many things, whether it's like your physical location of where you're at or your present state. So for you in that moment, hearing that voice, where did it resonate first? Was it location or what you were dealing with?
Just because I had already packed my suitcases and I was like ready to move from my house to go on a trip. For me in that moment, it was clear that it was location. And, and it was so true. And the funny part is that because I had businesses there and I had family there, it never crossed my mind that I could just leave, that I could just reinvent my life somewhere else. So I was just like miserable in this place. I didn't fit. Like I used to be married there. I was there married for many years, but then I had been divorced for years and I still stayed. So the moment that voice came up in my head, it was like, it just brought a new thought that then my mind was able to comprehend and was like, oh my gosh, yeah, like, why am I here? I don't have to be here.
Yeah. So then in that moment, did you get up and started your road trip?
In that moment, I stood up. The road trip had happened before. I was flying back with my suitcases to California for those 3 months. But conveniently, I had left my car already in California. So my vehicle never came back to South Carolina. And I had left my dogs with a friends in Arizona. So everything was really making it easy for me. Yeah, so I just got out of bed and I walked out of that house and really, took a leap of faith. And now looking back, like sometimes we make these choices and it's like they're big choices. I mean, I was just choosing to relocate across the country. But in that moment, it was just like, okay, just take one step, one foot in front of the other. Like it will work out. Let's see how things open up. Let's see what develops from this. And it turned out to be not without challenges, but really beautiful.
Yeah. Did you ever find yourself maybe questioning the choice to move after that?
Never. Not a single time. And when I say it wasn't free of challenges is, myself and I know people in general, we sometimes put a lot of weight in where we live, right? I mean, if the sun is not shining, I'm depressed, right? That is me. But that move also showed me, okay, you're going to a beautiful place that is more aligned with you. You like to be active. You like to, play sports and be on the mountains. However, you also need to make the choices that will allow yourself to enjoy the place, to be present in the place. So yeah, when I first moved, to across the country, it was new. I didn't have any friends. I didn't know anyone. It was new beginnings, but I never questioned that it was the right thing for me at that time.
I can totally attest to that. When we moved from South Florida to upstate New York, we were going to a completely different environment, but it just vibed with us. It brought out my happy. It made me kind of relive parts of my childhood. We have 4 seasons here. You do not have 4 seasons in Florida. You know what? You get hot, hotter, and hottest.
And mosquitoes.
Yes.
And mosquitoes and alligators.
And hurricanes. Sorry, lovely Florida people.
And all the things that can kill you. So, I can totally get that. And did that help a lot with your mental health once you got out of, where you were and then started making that trek to California? Did things start to clear up for you in your head?
Yeah, it did help. The move definitely helped because it placed me in an environment where I could thrive. However, I had to make the choice, sometimes in a lot of sadness and pain, to get out of my door and go to the beach and sit by the ocean or go to the mountains or walk my dogs or something that was so difficult for me. And I still actively reshape that is go out and make friends, right? Find community, find people, right? And a funny story, I have been already in San Diego for 3 months and I was lonely. Not regretting the move, but I was lonely. I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know anyone here. And going to yoga and meeting people was not working. I was like, oh my gosh, what do I do? So a friend of mine texted me, and I love him and his wife. They do events and things. And, he texted me and said, hey, Melissa, there is this event in Houston and I thought of you. You should come. It's going to be awesome. And sometimes I'm super like, yeah, let's do things. And sometimes I really do get like full body yes. And that was it. So I said, yes. And then when I hung up the phone, I said, you know what? I'm going to go to this event in Houston and there I'm going to meet someone from San Diego. Totally not making any sense, right? I get to this event in Houston, and sure enough, there is this couple that used to live in San Diego, and they connect me with a guy and his wife that live in San Diego. And that man is not only is he a beautiful soul, but he knows everybody in San Diego. So like as soon as I met him, I met everybody. And all of a sudden, like this community came and that really showed me follow your heart, right? Like you don't know where the door is going to open because he lived 5 minutes from me. And I had to go all the way to Houston to be able to know about him and to get, to know the community.
That's so funny. I love that worked out that way, though, because it almost seems, at least with what you've shared so far, there is sort of, for lack of a better term, it's this divine intervention where you are almost making this possible for yourself. But at some point, you had to have opened up your mind, I would imagine, to be able to do that for you, to be able to find these new ways and relocate and kind of put yourself out there to receive this. But where did it start? Because so far it sounds like this is where you are now, right? Is in Cali. But what brought you to the East Coast? Like, how did you start there?
Yeah, well, let me go back a little bit more. Let me go back to where life started. So I was born in Venezuela. My mom and my father, they were originally from Spain, but they traveled to Venezuela, met there, got married there. They had me and 4 other siblings. I am the youngest by far. So I grew up as an only child, basically with my other siblings being 9, 11, 15, and 17 years older than me. My family's house was, from the outside, what people will consider picture perfect, like the hardworking, successful father, wealthy family, coming from nothing, right? This sad boy made rich, and then a beautiful wife and all the kids. But behind closed doors, there were horrors and problems going on that my mind actually hid from me for my own protection. And let me just explain a little bit about that, just for those that maybe are not aware, like I used to be, right? Like I had no clue this could happen. Maybe I had heard that traumatic memories can get hidden, but I didn't understand how deeply this actually can happen and how it can happen to so many people. I will venture to say that most people carry some sort of hidden memory that drives some aspect of their personality. Now, there are extremes, right? There is like extremes, like my case, where, my entire childhood was blocked off from me remembering it. And there are instances where, have a year and you don't remember it. And then there is kind of categories of traumatic experiences that could have happened there. So I'm not trying to scare people, but I'm just saying hidden memories of trauma is a very common thing. So I didn't remember the first 16 years of my life. And that's an important number because at 16, my father was murdered. Venezuela being a very dangerous country, So my father was murdered at 16 and it devastated me. It shattered my world at that time, the world that I knew, right? Then I finished high school and immediately I had been working since I was 7. So I grabbed 20 grand that I had in a shoebox. I grabbed my miniature Doberman Pinscher and I booked a ticket to Florida and I moved to Florida. And there's a whole story about this in my book where I almost get deported deported, like in the immigration office at the airport. And it was terrifying, but I was able to get in because, again, it was meant to be, right? It was meant for me to start that new chapter. I go through life working really hard, trying to be successful, trying to look good and be pretty, and all of the successes that society tells us we have to achieve in order to make it. I end up marrying a handsome guy. We have, again, the repetition of the story where there is an picture perfect household from the outside, but inside it was nothing but pain and, strife and discomfort. And we made good money. So that was something that kept us together, right? Traveling, distractions, money, trying to cover up the pain and the emotional disconnect with, with wine and parties and things of that sort. But it really got to a point, 8 years into my marriage where I could not do it anymore. Like I had reached a limit of how sad I could be. And I decided to get a divorce. And, I got that divorce and I really was hopeful. I was like, okay, now life is going to be good. Like now it is. And, it dawned on me fairly fast that my sadness was internal. It was independent of the outside circumstances, because I was sad when I was married, and I was sad when I was in a 5-star hotel, and I was sad when I was walking my dogs, and I was sad all the time. So finally, I managed to spiral almost to rock bottom, right? With alcohol, with, behavior that was going against my values. And I get desperate enough to go to this place, this retreat in Costa Rica, where friends told me they healed their hearts. And I was like, oh my gosh, like my heart is broken. That's it. That's where I'm going. So funnily enough, you're supposed to prepare your body for this retreat and do a diet, right? Well, I booked it so fast. Again, it was a full body yes, that I was like, I called them up and I'm like, when is your next retreat? And they're like, this Sunday. And I'm like, I'm coming, sign me up. But I had already planned a trip to Vegas. We up to no good. So I'm like, I'm on my way to Vegas and I'm like, sign me up for this retreat. So I go to Vegas and I fly to this place directly from Vegas. And I get there and, it's one of those times that I didn't really know what was coming. Like why really I had shown up in that place, but I felt a sense of peace. The minute I walked in, I felt a sense of peace. Wow, I'm meant to be here. I felt at ease for the first time in a long time. That didn't last long because then I went into work, right? It's a retreat called Rythmia, which, by the way, as a side note, I am so incredibly grateful because now I am one of the teachers there. So I'm actually flying there tonight and I work there a few weeks a year. And it's just come such a full circle that my gratitude to be able to now hold people like that arrive, like I used to be, is beyond words. But anyway, I get to this place and I'm ready to work. And it's called a Life Advancement Center, right? People come there from all over the world for different reasons. Some come for traumatic reasons, trauma they want to process. Others come simply because they're unhappy. They have no purpose. Others come because of physical ailments. So I came because I wanted to find a purpose and I was heartbroken. And when I arrived there, I started to immerse myself in the curriculum that they offer, which is amazing, classes. And also they offer 4 treatments with a plant medicine, a psychedelic substance called ayahuasca. I had never really explored ayahuasca. And when I showed up without knowing too much about ayahuasca, because I knew if I researched it, I would talk myself out of it. But I do recommend for people to research it. But just research the safety of the place that you're wanting to go to. Not so much what to expect with the ayahuasca, because then you form all these expectations and ideas. Right. But research the safety. And I was lucky enough and grateful enough to have ended up in Rythmia, which was the perfect place for my healing. So my 3rd treatment there, the way I describe it often is I say my life got destroyed. And what I mean by that is that in an instant, everything that I had built for myself up to that point, 36 years of life, my success, my identity, my belief system, my values, everything collapsed.
When you think about businesses that are selling through the roof, like aloe or skins, sure, you think about a great product, a cool brand, and brilliant marketing. But an often overlooked secret is actually the businesses behind the business, making selling and, for shoppers, buying simple. For millions of businesses, that business is Shopify. Nobody does selling better than Shopify. With Shop Pay, that boosts conversions up to 50%, meaning way less carts are going abandoned and way more sales happening. So if you're into growing your business, your commerce platform better be ready to sell whatever your customers are scrolling or strolling on the web, in your store, in their feed, and everywhere in between. Businesses that sell more sell on Shopify. Upgrade your business and get the same checkout Skins uses. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/Westwood1, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/Westwood1 to upgrade your selling today. Shopify.com/Westwood1.
I'm Dr. Sarah Ray Hall, the founder and CEO of Armra. I developed Armra Colostrum because I know your body was designed to thrive. It's your natural state, your birthright, and you can reclaim it. Colostrum is the first nutrition we receive in life, with every essential nutrient our bodies need. It's nature's original blueprint for health. After a devastating health crisis almost took my life, I made it my mission to harness this power. Using proprietary technology, Armra captures over 400 bioactive nutrients in every scoop, delivering over 1,000 benefits that transform your health at its foundation. Whether for gut health, metabolism, skin, hair, immunity, mood, energy, fitness, or recovery, I invite you to join this collective revival of health and discover radical transformation for yourself. Visit armra.com, that's ARMRA.com, and enter code HEALTH30 for 30% off your first subscription order. This statement has not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
I started to question the illusion of my childhood. I realized it was an illusion I had created, and I started to question the illusion of a father. And through incredible pain and discomfort, I started to remember my childhood. So ayahuasca is a master plant. I often compare it in a, easy to understand way. We have a house plant that is intelligent, like, right, it grabs the sunlight, the water, the nutrients, it grows. And then we have ayahuasca that is like a dolphin in intelligence, right? It does a lot more than just grow and grab the sunlight and the water. So ayahuasca does the opposite in our brain than trauma does. It facilitates healing because it decreases the fear center, activity in the fear center of your brain. And it increases the connection between your rational brain and your memory center. So when you're in a traumatic state, you get terrified and your rational brain and your memory center, literally, they go offline. They're gone, right? So it's only the fear that is of what the situation is that stays with you and in your body. So when I started to remember my childhood, I went through the 5 stages of grief, right? Like, we think of grief as only when we lose someone, but grief is part of life. And grief comes when we lose a piece of ourselves, when we have a death and a rebirth, when we see clearly something in our lives, when we lose another person, when we lose the idea of who we were next to that person, right? There is so many ways to experience grief. And, the first one was denial, right? Then you go to anger. Then you go to bargaining and you trying to make excuses and explanations. Then, you really move slowly to depression, and then finally to acceptance. And it's a dance that you dance many times. It's not like you did it once and boom, I accepted and it's gone. It's a dance. So in that first evening, I went through those 5 stages really quick. And that doesn't mean I didn't go dance many times in between them in the years that followed, right? I was like, all the time, But in that night, I was able to get to acceptance. And when that happens, I was accepting to know. I was accepting to see why I had become the person I was, so sad, so angry, knowing that I was so alive, but I couldn't live fully, you know? And I also understood how common what I went through is, how common, sexual abuse behind closed doors of family homes is. I called this the largest epidemic the world is facing. Our attention was so focused on COVID, right? Like for so long. But, the most dangerous epidemics are the ones that are not obvious. They're the ones that are not on the news for people to be aware of. They're the silent ones. And childhood sexual abuse is one of those epidemics. To me, is the largest one because it really destroys the foundation of families, and in doing so, the foundations of society, the foundation of countries, and the foundation of the world, ultimately. So I realized how common this was, and I also didn't understand how I didn't remember. So my scientific mind went to school. So I schooled myself. Like I read every single book that I could on the subject to really learn how is it that I couldn't remember everything that happened to me if it was so hard to forget, right?
Yeah.
And then the science around that is fascinating. So out of understanding that and what happened to me, I realized that I was not only researching for myself, but also to bring some light in the world, like into the subject, and to really help people that, maybe were still in the dark room that I used to be in, right? Just shining a candle, a lighter in their dark room. And then they can choose if they want to, see the light more fully, or if they don't, but at least it's to give them a choice. And from that, then, an entire life transformation happened where I didn't care anymore about what I used to care before. And I really just cared about making a difference first in my life, because that's where we start, right? Like really holding on in integrity the best I could to my own healing process, and then sharing that with others with my book, which is a piece of my heart. And also now, teaching at Rythmia in Costa Rica and in this online interaction. So it's my pleasure to be able to share a little bit of that story.
Yeah. One of the things that comes to mind hearing you say that, and I'm trying to put myself in that position of how were you so brave to do that? Because I feel like there are parts, like you mentioned, where if you have this very traumatic experience that you can block out and not even know that they were there. But to even be brave enough to open that door to see and face this reality, right? Like how did that happen for you? Was it just natural, or was it unexpected and you had to show up for yourself? Like, how did you prepare to, I guess, face that?
Throughout my life, I had pop quizzes, really intense difficulties that were building up my resilience. And I believe we all have these in our lives. Okay. So I believe we all face, and in the moment, they don't seem like they're helping, right? Our difficulties, but I believe we all have pop quizzes that prepare us so we can face difficulties, so we can be stronger. So all the difficulties that I faced in my childhood and how I had to survive allow me to develop a deep resilience. And that same resilience is the one that allowed me to survive remembering my childhood. And it's the drive that allowed me to push through the intense pain and through the intense suffering that I had to go through to be able to heal my heart. And like another thing is I've also really always had a zest for life. And many times it has been just a little flicker, right, of light, almost going on out inside of me. But I've always known there is a zest for life and a passion to really be fully alive. Right. And I refused to not claim that birthright. I refuse to let myself be defined by the past and by the pain. And I really anchored the fact that I have earned a life free of pain and resentment and bitterness, and to learn to feel safe, to be happy, to learn to feel safe, to receive blessings has been almost as difficult as facing the difficulties. And that's something that we don't often talk about, right? Sometimes, we're just so comfortable in the sadness.
Yeah, that like kind of segues into the other thing that I was wondering is after you face these memories and this reality that you hadn't paid or hadn't acknowledged or maybe even knew existed, how do you keep being okay with that? Like what happens after the retreat is done and now you're home and you're back to yourself with your dogs and now knowing that this part of your life existed? Like what happens after?
Yeah, that's a really important question, because what happens after retreats, especially a psychedelic assisted retreat, is called integration. And this is where a lot of people get stuck, because, you need to really integrate into your nervous system and your mind whatever you had come up in that retreat. And I have realized, because I have looked back at my path and I'm like, man, how did I freaking survive this? Right? Like myself, I'm like, how did I not collapse when I go home? And I had just remember, the betrayal that I suffered at the hands of my father. Like, how did I not collapse? And then the answer that will keep on coming is small things consistently don't produce extraordinary results. So it was in the small things, right? I go home, I put an effort to read something that was educational. I change my wine for kombucha, non-alcoholic kombucha. I prioritize walking on the beach for an hour with my dogs. I prioritize getting on my tub and taking a hot bath. I prioritize going into communities that could help me, that could keep me grounded. I just took it one day at a time. And I also took active steps, right? Like I kept on, like I booked a retreat later, like after a few months, like to go back and to continue to dive deeper, right? And another aspect, when I think about this is going back to the same stages of grief. I think when people go to retreats, especially psychedelics, and they discover things that they don't like or they don't want, they struggle when they get home because they get stuck in the stages of grief. So they will get stuck in denial. No, did that retreat? What did I imagine that? Or did that actually happen? So they start doubting themselves, or they get stuck in anger. Like, how did this happen? I'm going to find revenge. I want justice, right? Or in the bargaining, coming up with excuses for themselves, or in the depression. I mean, it's hard not to get stuck in depression, right? In that deep sadness. So what helped me and kept on helping me and still helps me, because I still have a dance in these stages, is to really anchor that acceptance. And acceptance is not condoning. Right? Acceptance is simply realizing that there were circumstances that I did something or someone did something. It doesn't matter. Accepting what happened, what was, so I can just anchor who I am better and letting that go and forgiving that aspect and letting the past go. Yeah, I will say those are like the main things that will help a person keep on moving.
Yeah. How did you get from kind of being a student there to now being a facilitator for others? How did that transform for you?
Well, I've never done anything lightly. And that has served me well in life. Like when I go in, I go all in, man. So when I started to heal this trauma, I was like, oh, we're going to heal this baby right to the end. Like it's going to be real heal. So I went really deep. You don't need to go as deep as I have, but I needed to go as deep as I have. So I really I started to learn not only for myself, but also how to help other people, how to communicate it, how things worked, how trauma worked, right? Because, if I had a question about it, somebody else will come with that question to me in the future. So I wanted to be able to answer it in that moment for myself, but also for others. And then also developing a relationship with plant medicine, specifically and more importantly for me with ayahuasca medicine, because it was such a life-saving experience. I wouldn't be here today. I know that for a fact. If I wouldn't have gone and really trusted that this natural brew made of two plants, no additives, no chemicals, just like literally God's little tea, helped me so much that I know it could help other people too. So I became very interested in learning all aspects of trauma, of plant medicine, of psychedelics, and then also in developing my ability to speak about it, right? I was unable to speak about it. And then I went and wrote a book about it. So that was like the going all in and then going to training to speak. There's a lot of work behind the scenes that goes into healing trauma. So going to training where I will be between the tears, trying to get the words and practicing. And that aspect is not seen by people when you're like talking in front of a camera, but it's just really reopening your throat, reopening your heart to speak your truth after it has been silenced for so long. And then from there, it's just living in integrity as much as possible, right? Like really being the person that can inspire other people, not because you're trying to inspire, but because you really want to inspire yourself. And then inspiring other people is just a side effect. And, when that happens and something beautiful happens that I like to talk about, because, I was looking for my purpose. I was like, my purpose, what's my purpose? And I know that's such a common thing. But I really realized so beautifully that your purpose is not something that you find and you chase as much as it is something that opens up to you when you become the person, the version of yourself that can step through that door. So as soon as I became that version of myself, then more opportunities open up, right? So now this beautiful retreat center that I teach at, they offer me to come and be part of the program a few weeks a year. And that happened because I made myself available to it by my own actions.
I love that you said that. I think that's so beautiful because I think a lot of us do. I can only speak about myself, but I think there are times where I'm just imagining or envisioning that version of myself, right? That I'm like, oh, I want to be this. But I think what you just said is key. Until you do the work to be that version of yourself and to make those changes, you're not going to get there. So I like the way that you just put that to me. That was very beautiful.
I can totally agree with all of this, right? I went through that really horrible time in my life. Do I regret any of it? No, because I wouldn't be here where I am today doing what I love and what I'm passionate about and turning all that pain into purpose. But Melissa, I have a question for you. During I can't even say the word, ayahuasca, did you find it to be super cathartic?
Like releasing a lot?
Yeah.
Yes. So, ayahuasca works in different layers. It works in the physical layer. That's why it's purgative, right? That's why, it's very likely when you drink ayahuasca that you will need to go to the bathroom. You might purge from your mouth, and it's cleansing, energetic, like physical blockages that are in your tissues. Like we hear the saying, your issues are in your tissues. Well, it's clearing that. So then it can go to the next layer, which is the energetic layer, right? Like the energy of trauma, the energy of pain, the energy of sadness, the energy of anger, all of that gets stuck as well. So in the energetic body, it helps move that energy so your energy can be flowing more freely. And then it goes to the next layer, which is the spiritual layer. Right. And people might or might not believe this one, but this goes beyond the body, beyond the energy. And it's just like our aura, right? It's our spiritual energy, and it cleanses a lot from that. So it's cathartic in like multiple ways.
I have a weird question. What does it taste like?
Ooh.
I'm like, what does it taste? Nobody ever talks about the taste.
For a reason. Let's just say, if ayahuasca tasted like hot chocolate, we will be in trouble.
Okay.
Because we will drink way too much. So, it's funny you ask about this because I have come to understand that the flavor, the taste of these plant medicine substances like ayahuasca or, San Pedro, peyote, all of these substances, even mushrooms were not in chocolate, right? They are purposefully not delicious. It's almost to me like to have reverence for the taste and to actually drink something that is not delicious. It's almost like the first sign that you give to yourself and the universe, I want these, right? I'm all in. This is the first victory that you win. When you drink ayahuasca, it does not taste good. You're showing to yourself, to God, to the universe, listen, I am all in. Okay. Like I am all in. And I think that's a beautiful first victory that you receive.
Yeah. Oof. Are you going to do it, G-Rex?
I think we should do it together.
Well, if you ladies ever call to do it, definitely contact me. I have friends and family discount. and there are many ways and places to drink plant medicines. However, I really stress with the most importance how incredibly crucial it is for the person to not make a rush decision into this. Okay, so where you drink it and who you drink it with is, I will say, is 80% of the experience. Because if you don't feel safe,
right,
and if you're not supported, nothing of what was meant for you will be able to come through.
Right.
And then there is also the talking about the group sizes, right? There are places where you can go and it's 10 people. Rythmia, where I work, is the largest center in the world. Definitely, as far as medically supervised as well. And we have a lot of people, anywhere from 50 to 80 people a week. That's a lot of people. But that's also where the magic happens, is the group healing.
Yeah.
Is a group energetic healing, working together to bring about, collective healing.
Yeah.
We would get kicked out. We are not allowed to sit next to each other.
Oh, you will not sit next to each other. That's okay.
Yeah, it's something that I've wondered. I have a really close friend of mine, and sometimes we talk about it. Like, would you ever do it? I think I would. Would you? Yeah, maybe. But I think the step I have to come across, or the hurdle I have to go over, is there are trauma, right? Like, I know my childhood and what I remember of it ain't great, but I have come to terms with it. But I know that there's so much I don't know. Cause like I'll see pictures of me as a kid and I'm like, I don't know that room. I don't know those toys. I don't know any of that stuff. So I don't think I am ready to unblock that. But when I am, I'll hit you up and
well, what you're saying is beautiful, because that's like super common. Like there is, say, two type of people. One type is like me that had no clue. And we just show up and say, I'm here, let's do this thing. And it's like,
all in.
Like you get hit in the face, right? When you show up and like memories of trauma or whatever comes up with psychedelics. And the other type of people are the ones that are like, you know what? I'm aware stuff happened and I'm not sure I want to reopen them. And that's very valid. And, first recommendation I will give to anybody that feels that way is, if you like reading, read my book. It's called Hidden Memories, Discover What's Blocking You from Life and Love, because it actually not only talks about my story, but it offers a lot of education around trauma, around what to expect on psychedelics, what to expect on ayahuasca, so people can just understand more, right?
Yeah.
And then I also specifically address what you just mentioned. Like many times people will come up to me and say, listen, I know something happened, but I don't want to dig it up. So I don't want to do this ayahuasca. I don't want to do a treatment because I'm okay as I am. And I honor that, and I always say, nobody can force you into healing, or into not healing, or shame you into healing or not healing. That is your choice. What I have learned is that just because you don't heal the wound, it doesn't mean that you're not hurting.
Right.
And many times when that wound goes untreated, it starts festering.
Right.
And you can get a systemic infection. And when that systemic infection happens and nothing makes sense anymore, and you're just going through the motions. So sure, you can choose to heal or not heal the wound, but the wounds are there.
Right.
And ignoring them don't make them disappear. So, ultimately, we all have the opportunity to live the best life that we choose to. And there's no right or wrong.
I'm Dr. Sarah Rahal, the founder and CEO of Armra. I developed Armra Colostrum because I know your body was designed to thrive. It's your natural state, your birthright, and you can reclaim it. Colostrum is the first nutrition we receive in life, with every essential nutrient our bodies need. It's nature's original blueprint for health. After a devastating health crisis almost took my life, I made it my mission to harness this power. Using proprietary technology, Armra captures over 400 bioactive nutrients in every scoop, delivering over 1,000 benefits that transform your health at its foundation. Whether for gut health, metabolism, skin, hair, immunity, mood, energy, fitness, or recovery, I invite you to join this collective revival of health and discover radical transformation for yourself. Visit armra.com, that's ARMRA.com, and enter code HEALTH30 for 30% off your first subscription order. This statement has not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
This podcast is sponsored by Talkspace. You know when you're really stressed or not feeling so great about your life or about yourself? Talking to someone who understands can really help. But who is that person? How do you find them? Where do you even start? Talkspace. Talkspace makes it easy to get the support you need. With Talkspace, you can go online, answer a few questions about your preferences, and be matched with a therapist. And because you'll meet your therapist online, you don't have to take time off work or arrange childcare. You'll meet on your schedule, wherever you feel most at ease. If you're depressed, stressed, struggling with a relationship, or if you want some counseling for you and your partner, or just need a little extra one-on-one support, Talkspace is here for you. Plus, Talkspace works with most major insurers, and most insured members have a $0 copay. No insurance? No problem. Now get $80 off of your first month with promo code SPACE80 when you go to Talkspace.com. Match with a licensed therapist today at Talkspace.com. Save $80 with code SPACE80 at Talkspace.com.
I think we all maybe get to that point where you've got to heal that wound. You've got to face it and doing it safely. Like you keep saying that word safe and it's 100%. It resonates with me because if I don't feel safe, I'm shut down. Like I'm not going to be open to it. So yeah, there's value there in pushing yourself to face what you need to do to heal, to be that better version of yourself.
And also, just as a side note, because I know my mom is this way. So I know many people are this way, right? I tell my mom, it will be so good for you to heal traumas. And then she said, yeah, it will be good. And then I said, Mom, when you heal us, your kids, we benefit. Like we're all connected energetically. And then she was like, oh, really? Oh, I'm going to heal these traumas. So it's also not only, yes, our own healing is the main reason, right? But when we also consider how our healing will positively impact those we love, whether they're our children, our siblings, our parents, our friends, our community, our audience, then it's another layer of, I want to show up better for me and I want to show up better for them. Then it's an extra motivation.
Yeah, 100%.
Wow, I love this.
100%.
My God, I learned more about ayahuasca today than I have read ever. But it's good to talk to somebody who's been through it, right? Because you can read about it and read about it and read about it. But talking to you, I feel almost comfortable enough to a point that it may be something I look at in the future. I'm a lot older than both of you. I'm at least 20 years older than Dirty Skittles. But I still have my own hidden trauma, right? But I still try and show up as the best version of myself every day. And I'm still healing daily, 2 years into therapy, and I'm still healing. But it's something that I may be interested in trying out.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say on the other side of that, I like the idea of the retreat because I like the idea of the energy. Everybody is there for a purpose and it's positive. And I think that's what I look forward to. Where the ayahuasca, I'm like, yo, sign me up. Let's try it because it's a bonus. But the experience altogether of people coming together as a collective to heal. And I love that idea.
Both of you brought up such a good point because I feel that there is so much misconception and lack of information when it comes to what ayahuasca is, what a psychedelic assisted therapy is. And the media is not promoting it because it doesn't make money for the pharmaceutical company and for the alcohol company and the tobacco company. So the only resources that you have is talking to people that have actually, done it in a safe place. Because then you might find people that have done it when they were walking down Tulum, Mexico, and they saw someone with a sign, they go in there, they have a terrible experience, and then they come out and they're like, this ayahuasca is horrible, it should be banned. No, your discernment was skewed. You went to a place that was trying to make money. So, that's the difference. And that's the importance of going to a safe place. And in line with what you said, Charlene, is yes, there is value in a retreat system, in my opinion, to drink ayahuasca. Sometimes people go and do one ayahuasca in, like a person's living room, and they might have a great experience, but also they might not. So the beauty of a retreat like Rythmia, like the one I work in and teach at, is that there are 4 treatments. So 4 ayahuasca sessions in between a week curriculum. So there is yoga, there is breath work, there are classes to help you integrate, to help you maximize, your experiences with the medicine. And what these 4 sessions allow, and the actual week structure allows, is that you're able to unlock layers that are in different, levels of density and difficulty, right? So you might have one experience that's purely physical, then another one that is emotional. But at the end of the week, if you complete the program, and that's the key, you are wrapped up in a way that is impossible to explain with words. But you're able to go back home with a new sense of awareness. You're able to go back home knowing more about yourself, understanding more about your personality, your purpose, your surroundings. All of these things are possible when you put in the effort.
Yeah, I love that. I have 2 fun questions for you.
All right.
I like that I call them fun now. I'm like, if you could go back in time to a younger version of yourself and give that younger version some advice, what would you tell yourself and how old are you?
Is that fun?
Fun in the quotes.
So I actually lived that. Like I actually lived that physically. And it's in the final chapter of my book where I close the story. And, I saw myself as a 5-year-old twirling underneath the mandarin tree in my backyard, in my house. And in that moment, my adult self now sent a message. And that message was simple, but it was just be strong. Everything will work out. Everything will be okay. And I realized that those 2 words, be strong, has been my mantra and motto my entire life. I went through life telling me to be strong through every difficulty I faced. So I know that message was truly delivered. And I know that because that message was delivered, I am here today. So don't ask me how it works, but perhaps I did cross the time and space barrier, and my 5-year-old heart got the message underneath that mandarin tree on that day.
I love that. What would you say has been the hardest lesson that you've had to learn so far?
I love your definition of fun. So there have been many hard lessons. I feel the ultimate one, the one that wraps everything up, is the coming back to myself. And what I mean by that is to really remembering my essence, before distortion, before pain, that bright light that was born through my mother, and remembering that innocence and that joy and that freedom and that happiness, and making those experiences, those emotions so part of my adult self that I can just become that little child again. Like we have seen all these incredible masters, like Buddha. And when you think about them, they have this childlike spirit. It's like they reclaim the child's innocence that they once were. And I think that's the goal, It's just to be able to not erase the past, but to use its wisdom to guide you back to your center and to loving yourself and to become the person you were always meant to be.
I love that. Thank you.
We're not done. I have my questions.
Hers are actually fun.
Mine are actually fun. Hers are like Debbie Downer.
Well, I asked them selfishly deep because I want to absorb and I want to learn from others.
So my question is, if your anxiety had a theme song, what is it and why?
Ooh, it will have to be like, the Rihanna and Drake song, like never ending loop of repeated words. And like just keeps on going. That will be anxiety. We'll be like, yeah.
I love that. And then my second thing is, what do you do today for self-love and self-care?
I cultivate self-compassion, which is often not so talked about as self-love and self-care, but I find that is so important. The self-compassion is what allows us to love ourselves and to care for ourselves. We allowed us to be human, and we can love all aspects of ourselves with compassion, not just the ones that are lovable,
Yeah.
I love that so much. So, Melissa, where can our listeners find you?
So I share a lot of information on my Instagram, and it is Melissa_Osorio. That's OSORIO_remembers. But you can find all my Instagram and information on my website, which is, and sorry, like I tried to get on this _ too on the website, but it didn't work out. So it's Melissa-Osorio.com. And my link for my book is there. The book is in Amazon and Audible, and I narrate the Audible.
Nice.
It's a piece of my heart. And, it's a beautiful experience for me to put it out there for people. Yeah.
Ooh, I love Audible. I'm going to go get it.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Melissa. You opened my eyes. I learned something new today.
Oh, I'm so happy to hear that.
Thank you.
I'm an old dog. So for me to learn something new that's amazing.
Well, to just close up, I want to bring my mom up again.
Yeah.
She's in her 70s. She will die if I tell you exactly the number. But she has shown me that age is just a number. Beyond, energy and things that you do, but for trauma healing. So my mom has really inspired me because easily when we get older, we can say, oh, I'm too old to heal my past traumas. What am I going to do that for? But she's really shown me that age is just a number. It also applies for trauma healing because there is no expiration date for us to be able to reclaim our birthright of freedom and to live more fully. And the advantage of also healing when you're a little older is that you serve as an example for other folks that are in that age group as well. I mean, some people say, oh yeah, you're 40. It's easy for you to go and heal traumas and drink ayahuasca. But really, I get inspired when I see older people diving deep into their past, and they do it for themselves and do it for their kids, their grandkids, and it's beautiful.
Yeah, I love that.
This has been such an amazing conversation. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ladies. And I hope you have a beautiful day.
You too.
Hi, all. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. I'm G-Rex.
And I'm Dirty Skittles.
Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review this podcast. We'd love to listen to your feedback.
We can't do this without you guys.
It's okay to be not okay. Just make sure you're talking to someone.